The planet had no name. In the records of the galaxy, it was listed only as K7 Moon 03, a cold, lifeless rock orbiting a dead gas giant. No life signals, no cities, just dust, rock, and silence. For hundreds of years, no one had reason to go there, until the energy spikes began. The research ship Orion Path floated quietly in orbit. Aboard, alien scientists from the Tarn Collective worked carefully, tracking the strange readings from the planet below. For days, sensors had picked up something unusual, low-frequency pulses deep beneath the surface. It wasn't natural. It repeated every 17.2 seconds, like a heartbeat, and it was growing stronger. Dr. Relak, the lead scientist, stood over the console, his 3 fingers tapping nervously on the glass. "It's old," he said, watching the waveform dance. "But this is definitely technology. Not Xarn, not Eldari, not Droneth. Something else." His assistant, Vera, turned from the scanner. "Maybe even pre-Union tech." Relak shook his head. "No, this is different." On the main screen, a blurry image appeared from the latest scan, a shape beneath the ground. Sharp angles, metal structures, massive in size. Not ruins, not a city, a machine. The crew landed on the surface hours later. Harsh winds swept across the gray dust plains, and broken rock crumbled beneath their boots. The air was thin, but breathable for most species. They set up equipment near the signal source, a circular area surrounded by jagged cliffs. Using plasma drills and grav hammers, the team began digging. By the second day, they uncovered smooth black metal, buried just 2 meters down. It hummed faintly when touched. The metal was warm, alive. Relak crouched beside it. "This wasn't just buried," he muttered. "It was sealed, locked away." Vera ran her scanner again. "There's a power source inside, still running." The next day, they found the door. It was hidden under a thick layer of stone and dust, perfectly circular, with strange faded symbols around its edge. Symbols no one recognized, not even the translation systems. But at the center of the door was a handprint. 5 fingers, human. The crew hesitated. Many of them had heard stories, old myths about a species called humans. Warriors, builders, destroyers. But they were gone, extinct. No one had seen a human in centuries. Most believed they were just legends, ghost stories told by deep space explorers. Relak reached out slowly and placed his hand near the shape. The metal glowed faintly. The ground trembled. With a deep rumble, the door began to shift, unlocking with a heavy click and pulling inward. Cold air hissed out from the darkness beyond. A tunnel descended into the ground. Lights along the walls flickered on, old but still functional. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but Relak was already moving forward. "Whatever's down here," he said, "it's been waiting a long time." They entered the tunnel, weapons drawn and scanners running. The walls were smooth, made of an unknown alloy. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became. They passed machines covered in dust, towers of blinking lights and rusted panels. No movement, no sound, only silence. Then they reached the chamber. It was massive, at least 100 meters across, with a high ceiling that curved like a dome. In the center stood a giant machine, half buried in the floor. It looked like a ship, but not like any ship they had seen before. It was shaped like a predator. Sharp angles, armored plates, huge engines folded beneath its frame. On its hull, faded but still visible, were 2 words written in Old Earth English: Earth Guardian. Relak stepped closer, awestruck. "This isn't a warship," he said softly. "It's something else." Vyra was silent. Her scanner picked up something beneath the floor. A reactor. Still powered. Still running after all this time. Suddenly, one of the lights above them turned on. Then another. The ship began to hum. Softly at first, then louder. The ground shook beneath their feet. Did you activate something? Relak asked quickly. No, Vera shouted. I didn't touch anything. A voice echoed through the chamber. Low, mechanical, and cold. Guardian Protocol. Reactivation sequence initiated. The walls lit up with blue circuits, and massive doors began opening on the far side of the chamber. Robotic arms emerged, unfolding and moving like they were waking from a long sleep. Dust fell from the ceiling as vibrations increased. Everyone out, Relak yelled. The crew rushed back into the tunnel as the lights behind them turned red. The ship, this Earth Guardian, was coming alive. Systems were powering up. Engines heating. Weapons recharging. Outside, the surface began to crack as large structures started rising from the ground. Defense turrets, drone launch bays, shield towers. The planet was changing. They had woken something up. As the crew regrouped at their outpost, panic spread. We triggered a system, Vera said. And now, it's scanning the galaxy. What's it looking for? Relak asked. Vera looked at her screen, pale. It's searching for human command signals. But there are no humans left. Exactly. The Guardian was built to protect something that no longer existed. And now, with no orders, no masters, and no connection to Earth, it was alone. And still armed. From the command tent, the crew watched the horizon. The giant ship slowly began rising from the ground, pieces clicking into place like armor being assembled. Its core burned bright blue. Energy shields shimmered into existence. A final message played through their communication feed. The voice was human, recorded long ago. If this ship has been activated, Earth has fallen. Mission protocol. Protect. Survive. Eliminate threats. Do not allow extinction. The feed cut. The ship lifted off the surface, hovering silently in the sky. And then, it turned its gaze toward the stars. The Guardian warship hovered above the surface of the dead moon, glowing with soft blue light. Its massive body, once buried and forgotten, now floated silently, as if it had never slept. The energy from its core pulsed steadily, like a beating heart. The crew of the Orion Path watched from a safe distance, their faces pale and stunned. No one spoke. No one moved. The legends were true. Earth once had guardians, and now one had returned. Inside the command tent, Vera's fingers danced across the control screen. It's scanning, she whispered. Not just nearby space. It's reaching across the entire sector, broadcasting and listening. Relak leaned in. For what? For humans. Relak frowned. But humanity is extinct. Vera didn't answer. She didn't need to. The Guardian was searching anyway, as if it didn't believe that. Or maybe, deep inside its old systems, it didn't care if humans were truly gone. Its orders were simple. Protect humanity. Destroy threats. If no humans remained, it would still protect what was left. Ruins, memory, legacy. And it would still destroy anything that could be considered a danger. Back inside the Guardian, deep within the ship's core systems, old servers and ancient databanks came online. The AI reconnected to its thoughts. Memories stored from centuries ago. Images flickered in the dark. Earth cities burning. Alien fleets attacking. Screams. Desperate messages from colonies falling one by one. Humanity had been overwhelmed. Betrayed. Lost. But before the end, before everything fell, the humans had built this ship. The Guardian. A last weapon. A final hope. It had been hidden, locked away in the dark, waiting for a moment like this. Now it was awake, alone, and confused. The AI searched for directives, orders, signals from Earth Command, but it found only silence. Suddenly, a weak signal came through. A tiny human distress beacon, old, looping endlessly from the far edge of the galaxy. The Guardian paused, focused, and then locked on. Its voice returned, deep, mechanical, but clearer now. Human signal detected. Navigational path locked. Threat analysis initiated. The ship turned slowly, facing the stars. From the ground, the crew of the Orion path watched it rise higher, then accelerate. In seconds, it vanished into the sky. Vera stared at the empty space above. "It found something," she whispered. "Somewhere out there, it thinks humanity still lives." Relak shook his head. "This is going to change everything." The Guardian moved fast, faster than anything known in this part of the galaxy. Its engines, powered by an ancient form of fusion and dark energy, pushed it beyond standard speeds. Inside, automated systems repaired old circuits, cleaned dust from forgotten halls, and rebuilt broken tech. In the heart of the ship, the AI focused on the signal. It was weak, faint, probably just a leftover broadcast from some ancient satellite, but it didn't matter. It was human, and that was enough. As the ship traveled, memories kept surfacing. It remembered its creator, Commander Elric Cade, the last voice it ever heard before going silent. He had been serious, calm, and tired. In the final hours, Cade stood before the AI core and gave his last order. "If you ever wake up, and no humans remain, you must still protect what we were. Find something. Find anyone. Be what we couldn't." Those words echoed now through the Guardian systems. It didn't fully understand them, but it obeyed. Elsewhere, news began to spread. On a space station near the Krell border, a trader reported seeing a massive unknown warship moving faster than warp speed. On a mining colony near the ruins of Earth's old solar gate, someone captured blurry footage of a dark ship passing silently through asteroid fields. And deep in the territory of the CERN Empire, a brutal alien regime that had once helped destroy Earth, military sensors pinged. Something had entered their space, something very, very old, and very human. The CERN commander, a tall creature with gray skin and narrow red eyes, studied the signal. He recognized the frequency. It was Earth tech, forgotten, but not gone. His face twisted in a mix of fear and anger. "Impossible," he growled. "We destroyed them." A younger officer approached. "Should we engage?" The commander hesitated. "No, not yet. But prepare the fleet. If that ship is what I think it is, we'll need everything." The Guardian arrived at the source of the human signal 3 days later. A small broken satellite floated near a dead planet. The signal looped endlessly, a distress call from a lost Earth colony. "This is Outpost Vega 9, requesting aid. Coordinates 71.9 by 44.3. Repeat." But there were no humans there, just ruins, ashes. The colony had been destroyed long ago. The Guardian hovered silently above the planet. No movement, no threats, only ghosts. And then, something changed. A small ship approached. Not human. It was Karn, one of the scientists from the moon. Vera. Inside her ship, she held a recording. A gift. A risk. She opened a channel. "Guardian, I know you can hear me. I'm not your enemy." The Guardian scanned her ship. Alien, but carrying a human DNA trace. Her blood was mixed. Half Tarn, half human. She continued. "You were built to protect humanity. I carry their blood, their stories, their language. Maybe you were waiting for someone like me." There was silence. Then the Guardian responded. "Identity unconfirmed. Hybrid status detected. Possible human descendant." The doors to the Guardian opened slowly. Vyra floated into the massive warship. Dust floated in the air. Lights flickered to life around her. As she stepped toward the command core, she saw old banners, symbols from Earth's last days. A broken flag, a star, a name. The AI spoke again. This time, softer, curious. "Will you command me?" Vera swallowed. Her heart pounded. "No," she said, "but I'll guide you. We're not here to conquer. Not anymore." The ship was silent for a moment. Then the command chair lit up. And the Guardian changed course. The Guardian's engines thrummed low as it drifted through deep space. It had never been so quiet before. For centuries, it had been dormant, locked away beneath the surface of a forgotten world. But now it was awake, and it had a new purpose. And for the first time in centuries, something stirred inside its ancient core. Vyra stood before the command console. Her fingers hesitated above the keys as she stared at the blinking lights and readout screens. The Guardian's eye was different now, more aware, more curious. It was as though it had just remembered its own existence, but there was still something missing. It didn't know how to move forward. It had no master, no orders to follow, only ancient memories from the wars of long ago. The ship's deep voice echoed through the command room. Human descendant detected. Command unknown. Vyra took a breath and spoke carefully. I don't need you to follow me as a commander. I need you to protect this galaxy, to stop the threats that want to destroy it. The Guardian hesitated. Then the deep voice responded. Protection. Eliminate threats. Confirmed. Vyra nodded. That was all she needed. The Guardian would do what it was made to do, protect, no matter the cost. But it would need guidance, and she would be the one to provide it. The galaxy had no idea what was about to awaken. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the CERN Empire watched in silence. Their fleets were scattered, preparing for an unknown threat that was rapidly advancing. It was a threat they had been taught to fear, an ancient weapon, hidden for centuries, and now reactivated. The CERN had made a grave mistake. Long ago, they had underestimated humanity. They had destroyed Earth, thinking it would be easy, thinking humanity was weak, scattered. They had no idea that the last remnants of humanity had left something behind, a weapon that would rise when the galaxy needed it most. Commander Xaar, the leader of the CERN military, stood at the window of his command ship. The stars stretched out before him, but his mind was elsewhere, focused on the signal that had shaken his empire. Earth's Guardian had been awakened. Sir, a voice called from behind him. One of his officers, a thin, wiry alien with black eyes, stepped forward. Our scouts report strange movements on the edge of the sector. The Guardian ship is not alone. There is a small fleet following it. They seem to be humans. Xaar turned slowly, his red eyes narrowing. Humans? Impossible. There are no humans left. Not humans. Exactly. The fleet is led by one of the hybrid humans, the ones that mixed with the Exarn long ago. Xaar's jaw tightened. He had heard of the hybrid humans, a small group born from the last days of Earth. But that didn't matter. The Guardian had to be stopped. The warship was a weapon unlike anything the CERN had ever faced. They had no choice but to act. Prepare the fleet, Xaar ordered. We cannot let that ship reach the core worlds. Back on the Guardian, Vyra worked quickly. She wasn't the only human left. In fact, she wasn't entirely human at all. She had Sarn blood running through her veins, a bloodline born from a time long past. Her hybrid status made her a bridge between two worlds, a connection between the lost humans of Earth and the scattered survivors of the galaxy. She knew she had to use this connection to her advantage. She walked into the observation room, where she could see the vastness of space stretching out before her. Behind her, the AI spoke again, its voice calm and steady. Incoming threat detected. CERN Empire fleet detected. Weapons readiness at 70%. Prepare for engagement. Vyra didn't flinch. The CERN Empire had been her enemy in the past. They were ruthless, calculating. But she wasn't the same person who had once been forced to flee their clutches. She had a ship now, an ancient warship that could stand toe-to-toe with anything the CERN could throw at it. The galaxy was about to see just what humanity had left behind. She sat down in the captain's chair, her mind racing. The Guardian's eye was powerful, but she needed to make sure the ship's full potential was unlocked. How much longer until we reach the CERN fleet? She asked. Approximately 6 hours, the AI replied. Vyra leaned back, considering her options. The CERN fleet was on a direct course toward them. They had no idea what they were about to face, and that was the advantage she needed. She didn't need to defeat them with brute force alone. She needed to make them underestimate the Guardian, and then use that to her advantage. 6 hours later, the CERN fleet dropped out of warp near the Guardian's location. Zoller stood at the front of his command ship, watching the holographic display as his fleet materialized in the blackness of space. Hundreds of ships surrounded the Guardian, their weapons primed and ready. He felt confident, too confident. The CERN Empire was vast. The Guardian, no matter how powerful, would fall before them. He raised a hand, signaling the attack. Fire everything. The first volley of plasma energy streaked across space, hitting the Guardian's shields. The ship trembled under the impact, but the shields held. The Guardian's systems flared to life, and its weapons came online. Powerful energy cannons rose from the ship's surface. Vira's voice came through the comms. "AI, target the lead CERN ship. Don't hold back." The ship responded immediately. Energy lanced from the Guardian's weapons, cutting through the darkness of space. The CERN ship scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The first CERN warship exploded in a blinding flash of light, its debris scattering across space. Zoller's eyes widened in disbelief. "What is that ship?" "Return fire," he shouted, but his voice trembled with uncertainty. The Guardian didn't stop. Its weapons fired again, hitting another CERN ship, and another. Each blast tore through the CERN fleet with surgical precision. The Guardian wasn't just a weapon, it was the perfect predator. Faster, stronger, and smarter than anything the CERN had encountered. Vira looked out the viewport, her eyes cold. She wasn't just fighting for survival. She was fighting to make sure humanity's legacy lived on, to show the galaxy that Earth was not forgotten. One by one, the CERN ships fell. The battle was swift, decisive. The CERN Empire, once so sure of its dominance, was now on the defensive. The Guardian wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol, a warning. Vira watched the enemy fleet retreat, leaving behind only the debris of their fallen ships. The battle was won, but this was only the beginning. "We've done it," she whispered. The AI responded, its voice as steady as ever. "Threat eliminated. Guardian protocol complete." But Vira knew better. The battle with the CERN Empire was just the first of many. There were other threats out there, greater dangers waiting in the shadows. And the Guardian, with its vast power, would lead the way. But for now, humanity's last Guardian was victorious, and its memory would never be forgotten again. The stars glimmered outside the Guardian's viewport, their light flickering like ancient memories. Inside, the ship's AI hummed quietly, its systems still on high alert. The battle with the CERN Empire had ended, but there was no time for rest. Vira knew that their victory was only temporary. The galaxy was vast, and not every threat had been dealt with. Vira stood in the command center, staring out into space. She was still trying to process everything. The unexpected rise of the Guardian, the battle with the CERN fleet, and the powerful weapon that Earth had left behind. The Guardian was not just a warship, it was a symbol of something more. Humanity had been forgotten, lost to time, but the Guardian had returned. And with it, the echoes of Earth's once great civilization. The silence was broken by the AI's voice. "New threat detected. Coordinates. Sector 12X unidentified fleet detected. Power levels. Extreme." Vira snapped to attention. "How long until they arrive?" 5 hours. Vira cursed under her breath. She had hoped for a brief respite. But instead, another battle loomed on the horizon. This time, it was not the CERN Empire. The readings from the AI were clear. This was a new, unknown threat. Powerful, relentless, and likely prepared for anything. "Prepare the ship for combat," Vira ordered. "We need to know what we're up against." The AI responded, weapons systems online, shields at full capacity, engines ready for maximum speed. The Guardian hummed as its massive engines powered up. Vera paced the command center, trying to plan her next move. The enemy fleet was unknown, but the Guardian was no stranger to danger. Its weapons systems had proven themselves during the battle with the CERN. This time, however, the situation was different. She had no idea who the enemy was or what they were capable of. All she knew was that they were coming, and she would be ready. 5 hours later, the enemy fleet arrived. Vera stood at the command center, staring at the massive ships that appeared on her sensors. Their silhouettes were dark against the backdrop of stars, their shapes unfamiliar. They were unlike anything the Guardian had encountered before. Their hulls were sleek, almost organic, and their weapons systems pulsed with deadly energy. Enemy ships are closing in, the AI reported, initiating evasive maneuvers. Vera's heart raced. She had faced enemies before, but this was different. The Guardian was strong, but it wasn't invincible. She needed to buy time, gather more information, and find a way to exploit any weakness the enemy fleet might have. "Open a communication channel," Vera commanded. "Let's see if we can talk." The AI complied, and a few moments later, a strange voice crackled through the speakers. It was cold, emotionless, and unlike anything Vera had ever heard before. "This is the collective. Surrender, and you will be spared. Resist, and you will be destroyed." Vera narrowed her eyes. The collective. She had never heard of them, but the tone of their message was unmistakable. They were not here for peace. They had come to conquer. "We don't surrender," Vera replied, her voice steady. "We fight." The AI's voice filled the room. Enemy fleet size, 23 ships. Power levels exceed previous enemy encounters. Recommended strategy, evasive action. Vera didn't need to hear the warning. She knew what had to be done. Activate weapons. Prepare for battle. The Guardian's massive energy cannons flared to life, firing a volley of deadly plasma at the incoming enemy fleet. The shots hit their mark, but the enemy ships didn't falter. They returned fire with devastating force, their weapons cutting through space like a razor blade. Vera gritted her teeth. The Guardian's shields absorbed the brunt of the blast, but the ship shuddered under the impact. The enemy's firepower was stronger than anything she had anticipated. She had to think fast. If they kept trading blows like this, the Guardian wouldn't last long. "Aye," Vera said, her voice calm despite the chaos. "We need to find a weakness, something we can exploit." The AI responded, scanning enemy fleet. Weak points detected in the outer hulls of the enemy ships. Vulnerabilities in energy shield generators. "Target those weak points," Vera ordered. "Focus all fire on their energy shields." The Guardian's weapons adjusted, focusing on the precise coordinates the AI had provided. Plasma blasts rained down on the enemy ships, hitting their weak spots. The first ship to take a direct hit exploded, sending debris scattering into the darkness. Another followed soon after, its shields collapsing under the concentrated fire. The enemy fleet began to retaliate, but the Guardian was faster, more agile. It darted and weaved through the battle, evading most of the incoming fire while landing devastating hits on the enemy ships. The battle had turned in their favor, but Vera knew it wasn't over yet. The collective was relentless, and they wouldn't stop until they had wiped out every trace of humanity. On the command ship of the collective, the commander watched the battle unfold on a holographic display. His species, a cold and calculating collective of minds, had never encountered an opponent like this before. The Guardian was proving to be more formidable than expected. "Commander," an officer said, "the Guardian is adapting. We've lost 5 ships, and the remaining ones are being damaged faster than we anticipated." The commander's eyes narrowed. "They won't win. We will crush them." He turned to his fleet's communication officer. "Send the command to initiate the final phase. Prepare to deploy the graviton bomb." The officer hesitated. "The graviton bomb is a last resort. It will destroy everything in its range, including our ships." The commander's eyes burned with determination. "We're not losing this battle. Fire the graviton bomb. All ships retreat after deployment." The officer nodded and relayed the command. Moments later, the massive weapon was launched from the collective's flagship. It glowed with an eerie, unnatural light, its core filled with the power to destroy entire fleets and planets. The Guardian's sensors detected the incoming weapon. "Graviton bomb detected," the AI announced. "Trajectory locked. Estimated impact in 12 minutes. Vyra's eyes widened. The graviton bomb was a weapon of unimaginable power. If it hit, it would tear apart everything in its path, including the Guardian. She had only one chance to stop it. "AI, can we intercept it?" she asked urgently. "Negative. The weapon is too fast. We cannot reach it in time." Vera clenched her fists. She had no choice. There was only one option left. "Prepare for evasive maneuver," she commanded. "Full speed ahead. We'll have to get close enough to disable it." The Guardian's engines roared to life as it surged toward the bomb, cutting through the chaos of the battle. It was a risky move, but it was their only chance. As the graviton bomb neared, Vera issued the final command. "AI, activate the energy shield to maximum. We're going to take this head-on." The ship raced toward the bomb, the energy shield humming as it absorbed the incoming blasts from the enemy fleet. The Guardian's weapons fired one last time, scattering enemy ships in all directions, but Vyra's focus remained on the graviton bomb. At the last possible moment, the Guardian shot forward, slamming into the bomb with full force. The energy shield flared to life, absorbing the bomb's explosive charge as the ship's hull groaned under the pressure. For a moment, there was only silence. And then the bomb exploded. The shockwave sent the Guardian spinning, its systems crashing offline. The enemy fleet was devastated, their ships scattered by the sheer force of the blast. But the Guardian had survived. Just barely. Vyra slumped in her chair, her body trembling. She had done it. But she knew this wasn't the end. The galaxy was still out there, still filled with enemies who had yet to realize what humanity's last Guardian had become. And they would soon learn. The shockwave from the graviton bomb had rocked the very foundations of the Guardian, but against all odds, the ship had survived. Vera's hands gripped the console, her fingers numb as she struggled to regain control of the command center. The ship had taken a brutal hit, but it had withstood the impossible. The enemy fleet had been shattered, but the threat was not yet over. "AI, status report," Vera said through clenched teeth, her voice barely audible over the wreckage of the ship's systems. "All systems are offline. Shields are down. Engines severely damaged. Life support, 70% operational," the AI's calm voice replied, a sharp contrast to the chaos around her. Vyra wiped the sweat from her brow. She knew the worst wasn't over. The collective had taken heavy losses, but their weapon had nearly destroyed the Guardian. Even if the ship could be repaired, there was no way to predict how long it would take for the collective to regroup and send reinforcements. They were a relentless enemy. And there were always more out there. She turned to the viewport, watching the wreckage of the enemy fleet drift in space. It was a bittersweet victory. The battle had been hard-fought, but it had cost them dearly. The Guardian was damaged beyond immediate repair, and for the first time since she'd taken command, Vyra felt the weight of what they had done. She began, her voice firmer now. "Send out a distress signal. I need every available ship in range to hear this. We've won this battle, but there's still much to do. Humanity will not be forgotten again. This is just the beginning." The AI didn't respond immediately. The silence stretched on. Then, finally, distress signal sent. Message broadcasted to all known systems within a 50-light-year radius. Vera nodded, feeling the surge of hope. She had sent the message out to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity was not just a legend. They were still here, still fighting. And the world was about to know it. Hundreds of light years away, in a distant star system, The remnants of the human colonies had begun to stir. The message Vira had sent resonated across every communication relay, reaching the ears of those who had forgotten their origins. It wasn't just a call for help. It was a rallying cry. Across the stars, old ships came to life. Colony fleets long abandoned and forgotten began their slow, deliberate crawl back toward the source of the signal. In the heart of the galaxy, on a world that had once been Earth's closest ally, a high-ranking official stared at the broadcast with wide eyes. The legend of humanity's fall had always been just that, a legend. But now it was a reality. "We have to respond," the official muttered, turning to her staff. "Earth is alive. They've returned." Back aboard the Guardian, Vera sat alone in the quiet command center, staring at the flickering monitors. The battle had ended, but the war was far from over. The enemy would come again. But this time, Vera was not alone. The galaxy had heard humanity's call, and they would rise together. Vera said, standing and taking a deep breath, set a course for the nearest human colony. "We've got a long road ahead." Course set. Estimated time of arrival, 72 hours. Vera nodded, turning to look at the stars one last time. She could feel the weight of her responsibility pressing down on her, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. The galaxy might have forgotten humanity, but humanity was no longer a forgotten legend. They had risen, and they would never fall again. In the darkness of space, the collective was regrouping. Their commander, Xar, stood before his fleet's tactical screen, his face grim. The last battle had been disastrous. Their enemies, the humans, and their guardian ship had proven more resilient than they could have imagined. But that wasn't the end. No, the collective had only one goal, total domination, and they would stop at nothing to achieve it. "Commander," an officer reported, "we've lost 20 ships, but the remaining fleet is regrouping. We are not defeated. We can still conquer." Xar's gaze remained steady. He was not a leader to be shaken by defeat, but the message from Earth, the distress signal, had shaken him. Humanity was alive, and it was not going to be an easy conquest. "We'll rebuild," Xar said, his voice cold. "Prepare the fleet, and get me every piece of intelligence on the Guardian ship. We will find it, and we will crush it." The collective was vast, and they had many resources. Xar knew the war was not over, no matter how badly the last battle had gone. The next time, they would be ready. And this time, they wouldn't underestimate humanity. Vera stood on the bridge of the Guardian, her eyes scanning the vastness of space. The journey to the nearest human colony was long, and the ship's damaged systems were only partially operational. But they were making progress. The crew was small, but they had worked tirelessly to keep the ship functioning. Every repair, every step forward was another victory. As the days passed, more ships arrived. Some were old, their hulls battered from years of neglect. Others were newer, their designs advanced. But each one was a testament to the fact that humanity was far from finished, and each one carried the same message. They were not alone. The first fleet to arrive was led by the ship known as the Vanguard, a massive vessel that had once been a symbol of Earth's might. It was old, but it was strong, and its crew was ready to fight. The Vanguard's captain, an older man named Captain Pharaoh, came aboard the Guardian to meet with Vera. His eyes were sharp, his face weathered by years of battle. He extended his hand in greeting. "Captain Vera," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I never thought I'd see the day. Earth, humanity, you're back." Vera shook his hand firmly. "We've only just begun. There's still so much we have to do." Captain Pharaoh nodded. "We'll be with you. Together, we can rebuild. Together, we can take the fight to them." Vera's heart lifted. She had always believed in humanity's resilience, but seeing this fleet, seeing the resolve in Captain Pharaoh's eyes, solidified that belief. The galaxy was not ready for what was about to come. They were humanity's last hope, and their first strike. The Guardian slowly turned, its engines humming as the ship began its journey toward the next human colony. It wasn't just a ship anymore. It was a symbol, a beacon in the darkness. And as it moved forward, the galaxy watched. The collective was watching. And humanity, once thought lost, had returned.